Hey folks, Nathan here from Star Wars Beyond the Films and Cloud City Casino, a Star Wars gaming podcast, both of which can be found at StarWarsReport.com, bringing you another continued look at Star Wars Jedi Challenges. In the past, we looked at the core set and took a look at some of the gameplay, but one of the big complaints was that the gameplay seemed too simplistic, primarily because I was showing you stuff from the very earliest levels, the very earliest iterations of some of the lightsaber duels and things like that. So, this time we're going to take a look at a sort of refresher real quick on what it is we actually get in the box. We're going to be taking a look at the new content that has been released and a little bit on those more advanced lightsaber battles and things like that, since the game has been updated quite a bit since the last time I did any gameplay videos of it. We're also going to be taking a look at this bad boy. This is the Kylo Ren lightsaber add-on that you can get. It is a limited edition, but it basically gives you another way to play and control the game, along with a feeling of realism when you play some of the dark side expansion materials that we'll be taking a look at. As we saw before, this is our core box equipment. You have a Mirage AR headset. You are going to put your phone into this, then it is going to face downward in here. The screen will be reflected on the little panes of clear plastic inside to make it feel and look to you as if on your interior of wherever you're playing, right, which you can still see through it, as you can see the Death Star there through it, it's got this superimposed holographic feeling set of characters, situations, battles, and so forth that you'll be able to play within the game. All because when your phone is facing downward and playing the content, it has a pure black background and somewhat vibrant characters. The vibrant characters reflect, the background does not because it's black, it's not emitting any light to reflect, and therefore, whatever it is that's reflected is just going to be the characters and ships and that sort of thing to look as if they're in your environment superimposed. Again, this is AR, augmented reality, not VR. This is not virtual reality. It's not cutting off your vision of the outside world and replacing it with a different reality. That's VR. This is AR. This is superimposing a game on top of the real world. This is going to be your controller for the core set. It's a good replica of the Anakin/Luke/Rey lightsaber. This part on the end is going to be what lights up. It's going to be different colors. That's going to be tracked by cameras built into the headset on either side of the face mask, facing kind of forward and a little bit down. This is your button on the back that's going to help you to realign your saber as necessary. There's your activation button to turn it on and off within the game and to activate your powers within the game. It plugs in by USB. It does have an on-off switch here, but a nice replica. Take that part off and it looks like a genuine nice replica. That's the only thing that makes it really stand out as a game component. But this is your controller for all the different game modes, even the ones that don't necessarily use lightsabers, like the Dejarik game, the holochess game, or any of the other non-lightsaber modes. You've got your instruction manual that basically is all about the hardware. You're going to have to plug your phone into the headset, so you've got your wires for that. It includes ones that use basically your Thunderbolt, your little tiny USB there, and then your lightning connector. Just depends on what device you're using. And yes, you'll have to charge up the lightsaber controller and the Mirage headset, so you've got a USB-based charger here, just like if you had an Android phone. Then you have your battery-operated tracking beacon that turns either blue or sort of a purplish color. You can more see it, I guess, because of the reflection off of me than you can from the actual color of the orb itself, because it's all just bright light to the camera here. This is what you'll put down onto your table, or usually actually onto your floor, so that you can play the game and it'll know where you are relative to the lightsaber and the headset and so forth. Lastly, how do you put the phone in? Again, very quickly, you flip open the side. There's a tray inside. You open the tray. You take your phone. You're going to sit it essentially face down, right, with the USB charging side facing toward this little opening. Change the location of this thing if you need to for the size. You're going to close it. You're going to use these to make it nice and firm. You're going to take your little plug it into the phone. Now you're going to take this with the phone screen pointing at the hole that's on the other side. You're going to slide it back in. Then there's a little USB spot. You plug it in, close it up, you're good to go. But all of that gets done once you're already running the app and you get to that step of the setup process. It's easy, but there's a lot of different quick steps you do have to blow through to get to that point. We looked at it in detail before, no need to do that now. Again, though, the new product physically is the Kylo Ren lightsaber, so let's see what's in the box. First, you'll slide a piece out of the main packaging that actually has the lightsaber itself in it. You'll take that out, and then underneath is a little packet here that's going to include your technical instructions for the Kylo Ren lightsaber and a USB charging cable without the part that actually plugs into the wall. Then here is your actual new Kylo Ren lightsaber controller. It's pretty nice. I like the coloration up here in particular, as if it's been shooting those little exhaust bits as cross guards, but it's overheating, right? So it's changed the color of the metal and all. These are kind of flimsy. I mean, they're sturdy enough that they're in there. They're not like they're going to pop off normally, but they could catch on something possibly, so be careful with that. It's actually just kind of a wire running down here. Your sides here just kind of sort of hollow, but you can see it's a little bit flared in there like you would expect. So a nice, cool replica here. The only thing really denoting it as a game thing, of course, being this part up here. And this is actually in part where the diagonal aspect comes in, because on this one it's going to have to track where these are, because when you're playing as Kylo Ren, when you're playing the Dark Side expansion, or even the regular game when you choose the Kylo Ren saber that's not the default, it is going to line up not only a blade coming from here, but blades coming out the side, as we're going to see. As far as your controls and whatnot, you basically have a nice sturdy side on this side, okay? Nothing to press, okay? So in this case, the controls are both on the same side, which was not the case with the other saber. Clicking this part that doesn't even really look like a button, but clicking this is what's going to realign your blade. Clicking this little button here that does look like a button, that's what's going to cause you to activate the saber, deactivate it, activate your powers, and do all the other commands that require the activation switch, as it's called. And you go all the way down here to the bottom, and you got these pieces, most of which are just pieces of the design. But here's your power button, right, on off. It's just white when it hasn't got the game connected to it to tell it what color to use. But there's your power button. And then continue rotating, and opposite it is a little flap that opens, and that's where you're going to plug it in for the USB charging. So pretty nice. You're going to really be holding it mostly like this, more so than even like this, because you're going to want to realign that saber fairly often, depending on your lighting source. But it works pretty well. It's nice and hefty. It definitely feels different when you're playing with this than when you're playing with the other saber controller, and both of them feel pretty good. And given the fact that lightsaber blades, theoretically being made of energy, shouldn't have much in the way of weight, though of course we know they do in the way that they're handled within the films, turning on and off the blade shouldn't add much to the weight that you're feeling, so it really does feel very lightsaber-esque when you're playing, which is the point. So, what new game modes have been added since our last videos? We've got an expansion from The Last Jedi, and we've got the Dark Side expansion both. The Dark Side expansion being an expansion, The Last Jedi content just being considered added content to the main game. We'll check out the different modes. Please bear in mind that in what we're going to show, I don't have two of these headsets, so we're only going to look at single-player stuff, but we will take a quick glance at what multiplayer stuff at least exists from the menu standpoint and that sort of thing. Very quick note before we dive in, one of the biggest complaints that I saw over and over again on the captured footage that I had from the base game early on, right after release, was, this game just feels so easy. Well, it's because what I was showing you was some of the easier lower level battles, showing you how it builds a little bit over time. So we will take a look at some of the more advanced techniques in small doses here, but I'm going to try to keep the footage edited well so it doesn't play out quite in as long and drawn out of fashion as we saw in the previous video. But you will see some more advanced techniques here, a second battle with Maul, so that those who were complaining it was too easy might have at least a sense that yes, this does give you a little bit more of a workout and does become something that is a little more complex as you play it more. So one of the really nice things that they've added since the game's launch is the ability to try out some AR content for anyone who just downloads the free app without needing the actual headset or the lightsaber controller that you would use for any other game modes. Before you enter the regular game, you have an option to choose this AR version of Dejaric or holochess, where basically it works like most AR applications. You point your phone's camera at a flat surface, it detects it, and on your camera screen, you get the game overlaid on the real world. Not quite as cool and immersive as having the headset on, but you can move around it, you can get closer, get further back. It's pretty nice, and it's free for everyone. When you actually enter the regular game, you'll choose which lightsaber controller you're using as part of the setup process, and you'll go into the menu that now looks different. You have basically a central pillar that's going to switch you back and forth between single player and multiplayer. On the left, on the single player side, you have the regular Jedi Challenges game. On the right, you now have the Dark Side expansion. When you click on multiplayer, it's going to basically rotate it around, and you have a couple of different options up front. You have lightsaber versus mode, where basically you have to have two people with the headsets and lightsaber controllers with one of the orbs. And unfortunately, this is something that has nothing that you can actually do when you are playing with just one set of equipment, okay? So can't really show you that one. You can also rotate, by the way, by just clicking on them if you can get to them in the background there. Then you have what's actually my favorite multiplayer mode, which is ship battles. And if you are not playing with two pairs of equipment, you can actually play a tutorial to at least get a feel for how this is going to work. Let's check it out.
I am Admiral Akbar. I will be guiding you through your first battle today. Don't let me down. You have been given command of a Mon Calamari Star Cruiser. Your goal will be to destroy an Imperial Star Destroyer. The Star Destroyer has 4 primary sectors. Each one is responsible for a primary function of the ship. Destroying any individual sector will weaken the enemy's combat abilities. The first sector is responsible for the Star Destroyer's turbo lasers. Targeting this sector will reduce the enemy's rate of fire. The second sector is responsible for the ship's shields. Targeting this sector will weaken enemy defenses. The hangar bay is located in the third sector. Targeting the hangar bay will hamper the enemy's ability to launch starfighters. You'll find the communications bay in the fourth sector. Targeting communications will delay the Empire's ability to call for reinforcements. The primary weapons aboard a Mon Calamari Star Cruiser are its turbo lasers. You must learn to use your turbo lasers if you wish to survive. Good work, Commander. Let's try targeting the sector that controls the enemy's turbo lasers, shall we? Excellent. Next, let us try targeting the shields. Now, what would we do if we wanted to reduce the Star Destroyer's ability to launch TIE fighters? What if instead we wanted to hamper their ability to summon reinforcements? You must remain vigilant. If you destroy one sector, quickly change your target to a new sector. Let us practice. Now, it's time to select a new target. A war is not won on offense alone. We must now shift our attention to our shields and learn how to improve our defense. Activate your shields to reduce the impact of enemy firepower. Good work. But remember, resources are limited, and you can only shield one sector at a time. Imperials are known to switch up their targeting strategy often. Be sure to update your shields just as frequently. During key moments in battle, you can send communications to our allies and receive backup. Try calling the Millennium Falcon. Excellent. It's always good to know we have the support of Han Solo. One critical thing to remember about commanding a Star Cruiser is that you have access to an elite squadron of Rebel fighter pilots. Launch X-Wings to support your attack on a given sector.
Hey, Commander. How does it feel to be in the heart of the action? We're going to launch an attack run on that Star Destroyer. Try to hit him with as much blaster fire as you can.
You are a natural in that cockpit. But remember, no commander can be in two places at once. Choose wisely whether you prefer to launch an attack run or remain focused on your turbo lasers. You have put the enemy's ship in critical condition. Utilize a proton torpedo during your next attack run to expose their weak point and bring this conflict to a swift end.
You only have one shot. Use the targeting system to assist your aim.
Congratulations, Commander. This battle may be won, but the war is just beginning. Now get out there and show the Empire what the Rebel Alliance is made of.
Like I said, it's a pretty sweet mode, but unfortunately it is multiplayer only beyond that tutorial. Now for those who are concerned about the difficulty level of the original game, I've jumped up to the second level here, not the highest level, but the second level of combat here for Kylo Ren. And what you're going to find is that Kylo Ren has some abilities that are a little more advanced that you have to go up against, along with sort of a special ability that hits when he is depleted in health to a certain point. So let's check out this slightly more difficult Kylo Ren battle here before we look at any other lightsaber duels. This is in the original game, this is not Dark Side expansion.
Troopers, neutralize the Jedi!
Now's when things get real.
You cannot stop me! Darkness gives me power!
So you notice the speed of the attacks increases, the fact that you have to physically dodge left and right, sometimes you have to physically duck. It makes for a more physical game than some of those earlier lightsaber duels do. You do still have to block things, of course, but it's more than just that, and that's where you really start to get a bit of exercise out of the lightsaber duels. Not so much on the first difficulty level. Once you beat the first difficulty level, it unlocks the next. Beating that one unlocks the next, and so on. Now, one of the lightsaber duels that I showed you in the original footage was Darth Maul. Again, the idea that, oh, well, Maul was too easy. Well, okay, so here is Maul at that second difficulty level. The main thing to keep an eye out for here is his ability to actually throw his lightsaber at you and cause you to have to duck to the side. Again, this is the first enemy of each difficulty level. So he takes it up a notch by having the lightsaber thrown at you pretty much right off the bat. Here we go, we're heading into that more advanced attack. First, we have to physically dodge from the blade, but also notice that after he attacks, he also sort of rolls to the side. Now, to someone who's watching this, it doesn't look like much has changed as he rolls because you're still seeing it on screen. But if you are viewing this in AR, he's physically changing position essentially in the room that you're in, and you're having to turn to keep up with him. We see that in some of the other battles as well. So again, there's more physicality than what it looks like from the gameplay as it's captured just on the screen, because this is just what's being projected, not what you're experiencing necessarily. So you're seeing here the amount of damage that these attacks can do if not properly blocked, if you get hit by the thrown saber and so on. So yeah, they're tougher to defeat. It seems like on the easier levels, there's really no chance of defeat until you get to some of the latter fights, but right off the bat with Darth Maul, the first fight of the second difficulty level, it does get a bit tougher, though I did kind of throw that fight for you. Now, this is part of the update here for The Last Jedi. This was all free content, and what we want to focus on here is something that's really cool that sort of changed things up for the lightsaber duels, in that when it comes to the Praetorian Guard, right, Snoke's Guard, you actually fight 2 at a time. You have one that you initially engage, and then a second one enters, and you're using a lot of the tactics that you learn from the steady progression of the fights in the regular game. So think of this kind of as an advanced one, but not super advanced. It's not like it's super high difficulty level per se, it's just it uses a lot of the same techniques, and you have to keep track of 2 different enemies who could be essentially in 2 different places in your room, at least within about 100-degree field of vision in front of you, give or take, going out as a cone. Let's check it out. cool fight, and it's nice as free add-on content, but it's not actually part of the free expansion. The free expansion comes here. This is the Dark Side expansion when you choose it from the main menu, and essentially all that it is 3 new combatants for the lightsaber duels. Yoda, Luke, and Rey, in that order, and you do wind up unlocking new abilities to use that are specific to the dark side. So you have another pathway of upgrading your character. This one, I chose to break out the Kylo Ren lightsaber when playing here. So you'll notice that as I'm playing, it's rotating a bit with the rotation of my wrist, but it is tracking not just the regular blade, but the 2 exhaust blades that make the crossguard out to the side. It does mean, though, that you tend to have to recenter your lightsaber blade a little more often to make sure that it still looks right. On this screen, you can't tell because you're just seeing the blades without the actual hilt. The hilt is in your hand in real life, and it's overlaid with that black area there, so that it's supposed to look like the energy is coming out of the physical object in your hand. Well, if it's out of alignment, it doesn't look right. That's why you use that centering button. So, Kylo Ren is taking on Yoda here for some reason. This is actually a really fun fight, I think, because Yoda, being so small, changes the dynamic of the battle. He's quick, but his stature is small enough that it makes for kind of a different style of fight here. Of course, once you defeat him, you go on to face Master Skywalker, again with dialogue that is basically reminiscent of the conversation that we see in Last Jedi. Notice that it is Luke here and the way he looks at the end, so basically the projection of Luke, you could say. But it's kind of cool to be able to play as a Darksider fighting Luke Skywalker instead of essentially inhabiting someone like him. This is all on the lowest difficulty level here, just to show you the battles themselves.
Today.
Sure you are! Excuse me. And of course then his nemesis, Rey.
You wanted to forge a new path, but you don't act like it. No more. Stop.
I know, I'm a monster! So there you have it, folks. Whether you're playing the new content or the old content, whether with the base set or with the new Kylo Ren limited edition saber, that's some of the updates that have come for Jedi Challenges. Again, I don't plan to do any more of these updates in the future by capturing game content. I just don't see myself having the time to do that because it did take a while to finally get this out of the way since the Kylo Ren saber was released. So I will take a moment here at the end of the video for those who are curious to show how exactly to capture footage of the game on Apple devices, just in case anyone else wants to start putting up footage of the game, since I certainly will not be. But definitely a fun game, a little bit of a workout even. You're gonna feel like, you need to catch your breath a little bit. You'll sweat a little bit as you're playing it if you're playing it enough and on the higher difficulty settings. But I did want to make sure to show you some more material here. I've also had a lot of people asking me just how do you capture footage like this if you do have the game and you happen to be using an Apple device. If you don't have screen capture already enabled, go to Settings, go to Control Center, go to Customize Controls, and make sure that you have screen recording from the possible ones clicked with the plus, so it winds up in the Include column. And then when you're using the phone itself, you just flick up, and there's your screen recording button right there. You hold it down, and it's going to give you an option to decide whether or not you want the microphone on or off while you're screen recording. Simply hit start and you are good to go. Just figured that little piece of advice might help because I don't plan to do much in the way of further screencasting or screen recording of this particular game, so if others have the game and want to start putting footage up, well, that's one way to do it.